The co-CEO of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, says capitalism as we know it is dead. In a New York Times editorial, Benioff wrote that the current system has led to inequality. This follows recent comments from Facebook's CEO, who said of billionaires that no one deserves to have that much money, and Senator Sanders, who said that billionaires should not exist. So, does capitalism need a reboot? We are joined by Eric Gordon, professor at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business, and Mark Weisbrot, co-director at the Center for Economic Policy Research. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having me.
Sue.
Eric, you think things are pretty much fine the way they are in terms of capitalism. Why?
Well, I don't know if everything is fine, but I don't think capitalism is dead. I don't think it needs to be changed into quasi-socialist capitalism, because the problems that the other Mark Benioff, complains about, things like income inequality, no right of privacy, no climate protection, those are big problems in socialist economies. If you look at China, there's income inequality, giant income inequality, no right of privacy, and climate protection. It's just terrible there.
Mark, you agree with much of what Mr. Benioff says, and a number of CEOs, 200 CEOs, have kind of signed the same kind of contract that he did, talking about basically social justice and income equality, correct?
Yes, and nobody's talking about turning the United States into China. We're having a debate, and if you look at Bernie Sanders' campaign, for example, he got 43% of the vote in 2016, and his ideas are now the main ideas of the Democratic Party: Medicare for all, a $15 minimum wage, college-free, tuition-free college, and forgiveness of student loan debt. All that happened because people really want this. People are really ready for serious change, and I think that's what we're really talking about, getting the things in this country that other high-income countries have. We're the richest country in the world, and we don't even have health care as a right.
Eric, what is wrong with what Mr. Benioff is arguing when he says, quote, it's time for a new capitalism, a more fair, equal, and sustainable capitalism that works for everyone, where businesses, including tech companies, don't just take for society, but they also give back. Is there something wrong with that?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think when Benioff goes beyond that and says capitalism is dead, I think that's wrong. I think capitalism is a system, just like socialism, is a system that's been tinkered with over, many, many years. The capitalism we have today is not the capitalism we had at the turn of the 18th to the 19th century. So I think capitalism needs to evolve, and I think it will evolve, but I don't think it's dead, which is what Benioff claims.
Mark, what about that? And what about the fact that 200 CEOs did sign off on trying to change capitalism, trying to change society, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, there are a lot of others who have not signed off on that.
Well, I don't know what the author of the op-ed that we're talking about, it really meant by capitalism is dead. Maybe he means capitalism as we know it in the U.S. is dead in the sense that people are really unsatisfied. I mean, look, we're at the peak of a business cycle that's the longest running expansion in U.S. history. Unemployment is at a 50-year low, and inflation is very low, and yet people are really dissatisfied, and they're looking for the kind of change that I just talked about. So clearly something is very wrong. I mean, you don't even need the statistics. You can just talk to somebody who grew up in the 60s or 70s or even the 50s, and a worker with an average wage or salary could buy a house, send their kids to college, and the kids didn't come out with loans that they're going to pay off for the rest of their lives. So something has changed. We've had enormous growth in productivity and growth in the economy since then, and yet it all went to the upper end of the income distribution. That's really a fundamental, deep problem.
Eric, you get the closing thought.
I agree with Mark that that's a deep problem. I don't know if it's caused by capitalism. It could be caused by the government. It could be caused by other social factors. It could be caused by an education system that has left people behind. It's a problem. I'm not sure who has caused it or how to solve it.
On that note, More to discuss next time around. Eric Gordon with the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and Mark Weisbrot at the Center for Economic and Policy Research.